Hey there, and welcome. Today, we are cracking the code on a whole world of investing that happens long before a company ever hits the stock market. Let's jump right in.
I mean, it's a tempting thought, isn't it? The idea of getting in on the ground floor of the next huge thing. For most of us, it just feels totally out of reach, but is it really?
Well, that's what the private market is all about. This is the world of pre-IPO investing, and believe me, it operates under a completely different set of rules than the public market you hear about on the news every day.
So what's the big secret? What's the main thing stopping just anyone from jumping into this exclusive club? It really all comes down to one single crucial document that public companies have to create, but private ones don't.
Okay, so that document is called a prospectus, and you can pretty much think of it as the ultimate tell-all book for a company. When a company decides to go public, regulators force them to publish one, so that every single potential investor out there has the exact same, super detailed information.
I mean, it lays out a company's entire financial story, the good, the bad, and yeah, the ugly. As you can imagine, putting together this incredibly detailed legal document is a huge and very expensive undertaking that most private companies would much rather avoid.
So, if a company wants to raise money but skip all that hassle, how in the world is that possible? Well, it turns out the regulators have created a kind of legal secret entrance.
And that secret entrance is something called a prospectus exemption. It's basically a specific set of conditions that allows a company to sell its shares to certain people without going through that whole public disclosure song and dance.
And this isn't just some vague idea, right? There's an actual rule book that governs the whole thing. In Canada, it's called National Instrument 45-106. This is the document that lays out all the different ways you can legally buy and sell private shares. Okay, so inside that big rule book, we're going to zoom in on the most common way in, the main key that unlocks the door for most individuals who are looking to get into this market.
And that key, that magic term, is accredited investor. Now, this is super important. This has nothing to do with how good you are at picking stocks or how much you know about finance. It's a strictly defined legal status based entirely on your financial situation.
All right, so how do you get this status? The rulebook gives a few different paths. First up, net financial assets. We're talking cash, stocks, bonds, stuff like that. If you have over $1 million in those assets, either on your own or with your spouse, you're in.
Don't have $1 million in assets? Okay, path number 2 is all about your income. If you, as an individual, made more than $200,000 before taxes for the last 2 years straight, and you expect to do it again this year, that also gets you through the door.
And the third way is pretty similar, but for couples. If your combined income with your spouse was over $300,000, again before taxes, for the past 2 years, and you're on track for that again, you also meet the criteria.
So what's the logic here? Why these giant numbers? Well, from the regulator's point of view, it's pretty simple. They figure if you have that kind of money, you're financially sophisticated enough to understand the risks, you can afford to get specialized advice, and, most importantly, you can actually withstand a total loss of your investment. Okay, so let's say you've done it. You qualify as an accredited investor. You've got the key in your hand. But where's the door? Where do these deals even happen?
Well, they happen on these specialized marketplaces. A great example from our source material is a platform called Hive. It's basically a broker-dealer built from the ground up just to connect buyers and sellers of these private companies' shares.
And this brings up an absolutely critical point. A platform like Hive, and they're very clear about this in their own disclosures, is just a facilitator. Think of them as a matchmaker. They connect people, they process the trades. What they are not is an advisor. They're not going to tell you if a deal is good or what a fair price is. You are completely on your own.
And that idea of being on your own brings us to maybe the most important part of this whole discussion. The platforms themselves are brutally honest about the dangers involved. Let's just look at the unvarnished truth.
Seriously, this isn't some tiny footnote. It's a direct quote from Hive's own disclosures, and they do not pull any punches. Investing in unregistered securities is highly speculative and very risky. That right there gets to the heart of it. In the private market, all the usual guardrails and investor protections, they're just not there. And if you're wondering why it's so risky, here are the big reasons. First, illiquidity. That means there's no guarantee you can sell your shares, ever. You could be stuck. Second, there's way less public information. Third, prices can be all over the place and might have no connection to what the shares are actually worth. And the really big one, You could lose every single penny you put in. And this final quote really says it all, doesn't it? This kind of investing is only considered appropriate for people who can, and I'm quoting here, withstand a total loss of investment and do not require liquidity. That's about as blunt as it gets.
So there you have it. That's the code, cracked. The private market offers this tantalizing chance for incredible rewards, but the price of admission is giving up almost all of the safety nets you're used to. So the final question, and it's one only you can answer, is, with all those guardrails gone, is the potential reward really worth that risk?